All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the journey where now apparently we have a camera. I thought it would be a good time to implement the camera as today's episode is about, a lot of emotions and experiences, more so than usually in the journey where face value is going to be very important. So welcome to my very white room, which has random paintings on the wall and my very clean bed behind me and my very squeaky chair. As you also notice, today is an interesting day because after finishing LPL, I picked up a throat infection and I've had it for about 4 or 5 days. So I'm a little bit raspy, I'm a little bit more quiet, but hopefully you can appreciate the ASMR just that little bit more. That was filthy. I'm sorry I even tried that. But apologies for the delay in getting this episode out. I know it's been about 4 or 5 weeks since we last chatted. That's just because I hit playoffs and I hit, streamline finals and then regional finals, and I just couldn't find any margin to take away my thoughts of the LPL and, what I needed to do and move it into an episode. And so I had to delay it and I had to wait until this point where now I can finally relax a little bit more, where I can actually think more about other things for the time being and just kind of sit back and go, yes, now I can do an episode. So here we are. Here we are with the journey once again, where instead of talking about my life in China, which is what I alluded to last time, I want to take a different direction before I go into that and hopefully get another guest with that as well. I want to talk about finishing my first LPL year, and something that's very close to me and very important to me is the aspirations and ambitions I set out on to go into this casting journey, where for someone like me who did B tier league in the Oceanic Challenger series to then hitting, I guess, an S tier league, you'd call it, in, Premier Region LPL World Champions of 2018, how that was for me and did it hit all my expectations. So there's no point dilly-dallying around the edge. Let's get into it. I've got a small list out here in front of me and I've got some information I'm going to pull through. So excuse me if my eyes kind of just change around and dart around. At this point, it's a good place to start where we talk about like hitting yet another playoffs and finals. And I had the honor of casting another finals with FPX and RNG, which was grand. And doing another tri-cast with Clement and Raz, which I always enjoy because they have very different opinions. And, Clement is very stats focused, where I know Raz can often hit, points about jungle, which I don't think other casters necessarily always go into. And he's very good at finding these windows of opportunity to like nail down a play, which again, people might not think about, but maybe that's not important in this conversation. They both have their talents, and casting with them again was fantastic. So I got to hit another finals, and then I got to regional finals, and I got to host the desk with Soaz and Nelson. And especially for Soaz, like 9-10 years of experience in League of Legends, that to me is hosting with an idol who someone I remember sitting down and watching ages ago, on the world stage. And to be able to, be in the presence of that person, and even work with that person is to me something that was just kind of unbelievable. To be like, I hosted a finals desk with Soaz is just like, wow, it's pretty incredible. And of course you got LNG coach Nelson as well, assistant coach I should say, which was also cool. So interesting way to finish off, where had a really great desk and got to end the season off as well and send our 3 teams to Worlds. So that was a really cool way to end it. And yeah, I put a lot of work towards that, and, working with those guys was a perfect way to end the season. And it kind of just came across to me when I finished that and when I got towards that end and when I realized that's it for the LPL for this year, I have finished the year, how big of an achievement that was. I remember standing there and going, well, that's it. That's everything done. LPL's finished. And the way I saw it was like, wow, okay, I have to just take a step back and look at what I've achieved this year. And I think I have achieved quite a lot, I've improved elements of my casting. I've really nailed down what I want to be as a caster, which is like this cheeky, fun-loving person who can sometimes get lost off track, but I'm trying to fix that a little bit, hence this series, and hence also a lot of my caster training that I've been going through. But also someone who, can hit those hype moments and really give it what it deserves. That's what I see myself as a caster, as someone who can really nail down a moment, hit it to its peak. Someone like Flowers, I think I would compare myself to, of course, nowhere near. But I'd look at that and go, I can hit that moment and I can deliver it in a unique way. And that's what this year was about, like finding who I am and finding what I can be as a caster. And I think I've really moved in that direction. But it was a very hard year for me. And that's kind of what this episode is about, where this year for me was already hard enough moving into a foreign country where, yes, still moving over. I enjoyed the move. I enjoy challenges. I enjoy being put out of my comfort zone. But at the end of the day, I moved from Australia to China, and that's a big leap. And it's a very different environment, and, the air quality is very different. I'm sure you all know from back in Australia. Like, I have a lot of air purifiers here. But that's for a different episode. But it's just not being in an English-speaking country is always very difficult. And while I am learning the language, and while I think it is very important, it is super, super hard to, be able to lean on anything. You're by yourself, you're isolated. And I have other casters, that's great, but I never want to bother people. I'm not about, kind of leaning on people when they're also in a similar situation. I believe in banding together, but I don't believe in pulling people down. So, yeah, I guess my point is that it was a hard year because every step of the way outside of casting was quite difficult, but I got here in the end, and I guess that's what matters. So, and especially, joining the LPL, everything becomes worth it when you have such a big goal in the back of your mind, when you have that goal, or rather should I say in front of you, when you have that goal in front of you, and when you have something that you're working so hard towards, everything else just gets thrown out, like everything else gets absolutely thrown out the window. It's time for a sip of tea. Hang on. I have hot water with honey and lemon. That is how you fix your throat. But when you have such a big goal in mind, you kind of just ignore if there's anything bad or unsettling or anything that doesn't make you feel comfortable. You go, I'll take that because this is a priority. And I know someone will be able to relate on things like this, where you will do things in life that you don't enjoy because you're aiming for something bigger, or that it's only a byproduct, or if it's like it's a stepping stone. Now, I'm not saying it's a stepping stone to LPL. I'm saying like maybe some parts of life here, weren't always super ideal, where I could, kind of get away with it in Australia. But the LPL itself was, like a great experience throughout the year. I never thought that I would be moving from Challenger Series to LPL. I know that I talked about how I actually became a caster and how I kind of got here before and how surreal it was in my previous episode. But the surrealness of doing the full year, I think, hit me at the end of that finals as well. When I finished, when I looked at Soaz, when I shook his hand, I said, good job, when we saw him later, we had a great, like, I guess, call it family meal with all the casters and some of the production and Soaz and his partner as well. There was like this kind of feeling of, wow, actually did it, actually did the full year. And, it just kind of hit me in a really big way. So that's why when I look back, I go, yeah, it was all worth it. That's why that big goal was so important, because you get to that moment and you go, I feel so successful. Now, of course, in that moment, the other thing that hit me really hard was like how tired I was, how exhausted I was, how big of a year it was. I actually have, a count of, I think, the series that I went through this year as well. In spring, I believe I did 49. I did 49 series, which is a lot, and I did 55 in summer. Now, I think that counts everything, but look, doing 105, 106 series throughout the year where, some of them go to all best of 3 or best of 5, mind you, is a lot. Is a lot. Like, man, 106 series is a lot. Now, of course, like I did a lot of casts this year. Unfortunately, there was a point where Nigeria couldn't cast, and I did have to take over, and that was unfortunate due to illness. Of course, it's always going to be the case. I know he'd do the same for me in a heartbeat, and he would have taken over if I fell ill. I was just very lucky this year that I did not fall ill, but I did a lot, and that amount of work hit me at the end. It made me think of something that Papa Smithy, I remember I think it was 2017 or 2018, feel free to correct me in the comments, when he was talking about how in LCK, remember, he did all the games, all the color casting games for the year. I'm like, wow, I didn't even, I didn't hit all the games. Like, I can imagine why Papa Smithy was so burnt out, because although the LCK doesn't have the same, volume of games as the LPL does, like, he hit all of them. So he would have done even more than I did this year. So I kind of look at that and go, yeah, that's right. You don't really get the chance to sit down and appreciate, like the games here and there, to analyze, to break down, to do a VOD review. You just have to keep rolling and rolling and rolling and moving on and just going, this is the next cast, this is the next cast, this is the prep cast, where you don't get to look back and take some analysis away. I remember in his video, he was talking about, like, you don't actually get to, not only you don't get to have the downtime, but you don't also get to, like, review the games itself. And that's always been very important for me, where I go back and I do a VOD review. I pretty much went from like game to prep to game to prep to game to prep. And I became very forgetful. It all melded into one, where it just felt like one big steam line of games where, I'm doing 3 to 4 days a week of LPL. And I was just like, it was fine. It was still getting casting practice, but I was like, well, it's not the quantity of games that improves you as a caster. I started thinking it's the quality. Right, is the quality, and it's the time you have to sit down and break it down and improve yourself. So this year was hard because there were just so many different series coming across where I couldn't remember certain games, and I'd see players and I'd go, I think we're going to be seeing this, but I'm not sure. Like a certain champion, but I'm not sure because I might be thinking about someone else. So. There was a lot that kind of moved into one thought. A lot of series that I got confused by, and I went back and looked at that number, and I was like 106. I'm like, whoa, that is a lot. That's a lot of series for one person to cast. And I empathized with Papa Smithy's year, and I felt quite closely related to it because I realized, like, as a play-by-play for my voice, I mean, it's very risky. Like, I'm doing a lot of shouting. I'm smashing out those vocals in a team fight, and that can really, really hurt me. So I got to a point where in certain games I wouldn't really team fight. I'd just gonna kind of hit the, this is a big moment, and it's gonna be an ace coming through. Easy stuff for Vici to take it to the Nexus. Like, I'd just heighten my voice a little bit, and that would be it. And I'd have to kind of leave it at that. So it got to the point where I kind of had to pick my battles within the series so I didn't burn myself out. And I guess that's just a life, There's a life when, unfortunately, a colleague becomes sick and you do have to cover. But that was the hardest thing in the year, I think, with doing all the amount of casts. And I was lucky that Raz got to take over some of them, and that Raz got to bring out his infamous play-by-play. But that's great tea. I'm sorry if you're hearing the slurps. I'm not a slurper. I try not to be a slurper. But anyway, like, the amount of casts I did this year was insane. It's probably triple more than I do in a hang on. Let's think. Oceanic Challenger Series, probably, they went into like 14 weeks in the year in the end 14, 15 weeks. It was, the one-off. Okay. And they were best of ones until we went into playoffs. So, I mean, I would have done 10 to 20 times more series than I've ever done. So, I got a throat infection. Who knows where it's come from. But I know my body just wanted to lay down and kind of not do anything for a week. And that's what I've tried to be doing. And that's what I've actually just been kind of prioritizing in the past couple of weeks as well. So, it's been a really big year. In that sense, you get the experience of working with big names like I talked about. What's been really good, and I don't want to shout out people because I think people take it the wrong way where I'm sucking up to them. I've been very thankful of people like Raz and Clement, like leaders on the team of LPL, who have guided me and kept my casting in check, always kept me honest as well. Especially like the feedback from Raz, because as you know, if you've watched LPL, I've done a lot of casts with Raz, because as a duo we work really well together, and I think that's developed through like mutual respect. Now I can't say anything because I assume Raz respects me, but I don't have a sip and let you mull that over. But as a duo, we work really well together, and I think the color casting from him is so vibrant, can be so energetic at times, but just so punchy and to the point in other moments. So I really enjoyed casting with him, and I think that's why it's like a special shout out to Raz and like his development for me over the year, and why I was able to hit this point and hit the mark and go those 8-9 weeks of LPL broadcast strong. Because the feedback from him, Clement the same as well, as a color, different dynamic, the feedback's there as well. And seniors of the team have really kind of gotten me through to this point. It sounds like it's a eulogy. Now, doesn't it? But the seniors on the team have really, really helped out a lot. And yeah, it set me up for a really strong part of the year. It's a great way to finish the year. I know that LPL, like, next year will be back bigger and stronger, and I hope, to be part of that team once again, and hope to be, like, bringing some of the lessons forward and improving again. This year for me was about assimilating to the LPL, and for you guys, for the audience, for the viewers, start attaching me to the LPL and start feeling like this place has home casters, if you know what I mean. Like, I know when people say LPL, they go Raz, Raz. They also go Clement, right? For good reason. It's the second year with the team, and people will start thinking that the LPL, they attach people to it because they're the faces that they've seen the most. And after seeing my face a lot this year, I'm hoping that people have already started doing the same. I know that there's been some really great support out of the Discord groups, out of the Twitch chat, out of Reddit even. I've seen some supporters there, so shout out to you guys. And, it means a lot. And I really want to attach myself to this brand because I think, much like the league, I can have crazy moments, but also I think I can have really great moments here as well. And that's why the LPL is so important to me, because the league fits with my style and the league fits with who I am as a person, but also because the league is my first major chance at hitting a premier region and hitting it well. I think there's a lot of bad stigma around LPL casters, and I want to dismantle that. I want people to think that the LPL has some of the best casters in the future. No matter, who is a part of it or whatever, I want people to think that some of the best casters are here, because it is chaotic, and there's a lot of moments for charisma and unique energy to be shown by casters. I think the ability to flourish is really here. So that's why it's important to me that after this first year, I want people to look at me and go, this man is, he's something. He can grow with the LPL, and he's making the LPL games better for me. So that's why having seniors like this to help me get through this first year is great, because then I want to improve and like build onto the second year. I want the brand with the LPL to grow strong, and I want people to remove that stigma. Because of course I read Reddit, and of course I read, Twitch chat and all that kind of stuff. I know there's some people out there who really enjoy the LPL or the casters or whatever. That's fine. I try and take whatever constructive criticism I can, and that's what, I've been really strong about this year as well, that I think a lot of broadcasters out there and people will say that, like Reddit and Twitch, they'll stereotype Twitch chat and Reddit and be like, like they're all trolls, they're all miscreants, like they're bad people or whatever. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think there are some stupid things said on Twitch chat. There are some bad people on Twitch chat, but I have taken constructive criticism out of our Twitch chat and out of Reddit as well. I've always opened up my DMs. I've always told people that they can contact me with feedback, whether it's me or anyone about the team, because I think it is important that the LPL broadcast that out of any Premier region, apart from LMS, which doesn't have an English broadcast, out of any Premier region, it has, the lowest viewership and also, I guess the, what I say, is it fair to say, and also, like, it doesn't have the big production of like, I'd even say like LCK, LCS, or LEC, that it doesn't always get, like immediate attention from, I guess from like a team. How am I trying to say this? Excuse me while my brain works for a second. I guess from like there's not as many people watching, so the audience can't give, like as direct feedback. Does that make sense? Maybe it's not as uniform. You know what I'm trying to say. I hope you know what I'm trying to say. This is my first time I get a camera. Now I'm just like, now I'm actually talking to you. Now it's actually serious. I just don't think, because we don't have as many people watching, you're not always going to get those people that are like, you're not always going to get the constructive criticism as, you don't have as many people. You're not going to get as much feedback there. How about that? Is it better? I hope so. You'll be able to decipher my words, I'm sure. But point being, I take feedback wherever I can get it. And like constructive criticism has been like opening up the channels to the LPL and trying to find where this hate is and defuel it and building myself up better in terms of like skill and repartee and like, I guess the way I broadcast itself, so that, like we are accepting and we do accept feedback. But I'm sorry, this is kind of like taking a weird turn to the side. But my point is like, that's what this year's been about for me, for like accepting feedback and accepting, I guess, the welcoming from the community, whether it's negative or accepting. That's, a really important part for me moving into a new casting role, moving into a new environment. That's, what I wanted to do, and I think I achieved that as well. So this has been a really, did I say a long year? It feels like it's been a long year just because, like, while I was busy all the time, every step of the way was a good challenge. Like, even though I was doing all those casts, and even though, yes, like, I wasn't able to analyze or whatever, I was still being challenged, like, with prep and, like, what I was going to talk about. And, like, I always had room to improve. I still know what direction I need to go. Like, it's always a challenge. And I love that. I love being challenged so much. I love being taken out of my comfort zone, and I love being challenged. Like, I mean, those two in a way go hand in hand, right? So, swallowing with a throat infection feels pretty shit. So I think this year has been a really good test, a really good challenge, and I'm sad that it finished, that it's kind of finished, but I'm hoping to go onward and upward. I'm hoping to catch the finals on November 10th in Paris. That would be really cool. First time going to Paris. If I'm able to go, that would be great. So that would be, like kind of a dream come true to see my first ever Worlds. Because remember, I only got involved in esports in 2015, essentially. First finals I watched was 2014 Worlds. And up until then, I have been watching it. But it's like, North America, like Europe, and in Australia, it's just so far away. It's like a 20-hour flight if you want to get to any of those locations. But being here in China, 10 hours away, 10, 11 hours away from Sydney, breaks up the trip. So now I have that opportunity after like finishing such a big year to then go, oh yeah, I can go and watch Worlds, or I can go and explore Europe, or I can do this and that. I can actually enjoy myself for the remainder of the year while I prepare for the next. So, excuse me, it's a, like I do have those options, and that makes me happy that I can, after hitting so many stress points this year and like working so hard, that I can actually relax in the game that I love, in the environment that I love. I would love to see the finals venue in Paris. I'd love to like maybe potentially meet some of the other big casters that I've been idolizing from like LCS or LEC, or even, depending, of course, LCK again, where I worked with them for Rift Rivals. But either way, I love the environment, and now that my foot's kind of in this environment, I don't want to leave. So onward and upward, I should say. Big year, really big year. Worlds would be amazing. It would just be the perfect way to end the year, and then it would motivate me to start prepping and start doing development on myself for the next year as well. Not that I wouldn't be motivated, but you know what I mean. But yeah, it's just been such a big year, and yeah, I'm not gonna forget 2019, because it was the first real year full-time casting, and that's what I was doing, just casting. But it was also like the year that I became part of something very important, something very big. That I became part of a premier region, but also like part of a global casting team that I think is one of the best in the world. Now, of course, I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm tooting the horn of every other League of Legends caster out in the world. I mean, like even OPL. Like OPL is a great casting team. I know, like, I've seen LCL. I've seen, was it CB LOL final? Where they've got, like, obviously I don't understand the language, but great casting team there. I just think out of any esport, best talent team is League of Legends, like, by far. You have some great, like Dota 2 casters, like you have some fantastic Dota 2 casters, CSGO, like hosts and analysts plus casters as well, sure. But the depth of talent in League of Legends, like the high end, is insane. And that's why I'm just so lucky to be a part of it. And that's why this first year for me is still kind of surreal, exhausting, but still surreal. So I'm hoping to add many more into the books, and I'm hoping that, yeah, this definitely won't be the first and last. I'm hoping it's the first of many, but I appreciate everyone who's kind of stopped by and tuned in. It's good to kind of get this off my chest, and I know it might not seem like much, but like after doing so much work this year, I felt like I had to put a bit of a rant forward as to like how good it feels to finish, but also how bad it feels to finish, because I want to do more. Like I love LPL. I wish I was casting right now. It feels like a drug sometimes. Casting does feel like a drug, where you feel empowered by like the players and the plays. Long story anyway. I'm trying not to tangent. That's my goal. No tangenting. But yeah, just feels good to finally, get one of these out again as well. But yeah, I promise I will be talking about my life in China in the next episode. But for now, sit on this. If you have any questions, any comments, feel free to leave them below. DM's always open, again, to anyone, with feedback from the first year of LPL. It was a big year for me. If you feel like I could have done better, please go ahead and hit me up on Twitter. But for now, I appreciate everyone who tuned in, and the journey will continue next time with Life in China. We'll try and get a guest next time. I think a guest next time, yeah? Yeah? I got rid of the ocean waves to my right side. I changed everything. We have a camera now. So I feel like now we have to keep this going. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. My lips are very pink on this camera as well. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I just have very pink lips. But anyway, that'll be it for now. I will say goodbye for the last time, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again. Comment and I don't know, don't subscribe. I hate that kind of shit. Like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, ring the bell. Don't forget to ring the bell. Don't ring the bell. I'll see you next time.